What?
Wait for it.
Right.
I have no idea.
What if I told you, Sean, that they're not underwater?
I was literally going to say this. I mean, that either looks like a nuclear bomb or a sexual object I will not reference.
It's hello and welcome back to Cinema Rules. My name's Tom and this is Sean.
And welcome to our new series called How to Hollywood, or How to Hollywood. We were literally just debating how to say it.
How to Hollywood or is it called How to Hollywood? It's both. Because if you don't know what How to Hollywood is, it's where we unpick our favourite scenes or the scenes we find interesting in film cinematic history.
And we go behind the scenes and tell you exactly how they were done.
We look at everything, or we have looked at everything so far, to how Superman flies, to the motion capture almost used in Jurassic Park.
Not motion capture. Go motion, Tom. Get it right.
Exactly.
But in this episode, we have got a couple of bangers. I've got some really old school 1930 films.
This could be our oldest one yet.
Potentially, but this one revolves around transformation or transition.
Now, in my one, Sean, we're going to have a look at what James Bond has in common with a 1916 film called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Now, if you don't know already, if you haven't watched the past episodes of How to Hollywood, you'll know that Tom has now gone and has this obsession about silent films and comparing new films with old.
I do. I don't know. It's just, I love going on that trip through film history and seeing how these effects are developed, how they're created, and how they're perfected later on.
It's going to be a good episode, so stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button if you like this content, want to see more. Hit the notification bell to be reminded of when we upload, and let's get straight into the first clip. So Tom, the first clip is from a film called The Octopus.
She's the octopus. What?
Wait for it. Tom's face just dropped. And then she pulls out a gun. She's an octopus, but she's like, her weapon of choice is a fucking 911 pistol.
She looks like a witch to me.
Yeah, people do reference her as the witch. How do you think that's done?
It doesn't look like just the shade of her skin changes. It looks like her eyes change. It looks like her teeth change slightly. She obviously takes off her hair, and she's got this like grease-looking hair behind it. So that does a lot.
Yeah.
But then I think, I'm definitely going to be wrong, but I think it might just be a lighting thing, because definitely not two scenes into splice, because
it's so smooth.
It's so smooth. It's the same person in the same scene. So
yeah.
I think it's a lighting and shadow technique or something like that.
You're very close. Well, I wouldn't say you're close, but you've got the right idea. It is the same clip. It is the same actress. There's no cut.
Yeah.
It is so smooth. What it is that she is wearing makeup. Okay. And she's wearing red makeup in specifically. And what they're doing is they're actually putting a red filter in front of the camera lens.
When she takes that wig off?
No. So the red filter is in front of the lens where she looks normal. Okay, and then when the transition happens, they either polarize the lens or the filter, or they remove the filter completely, and it then exposes that red makeup. So think of it this way: 3D glasses. Okay, yeah. When you're looking at 3D glasses, when you're looking at a 3D movie without glasses, you can see a blue layer and a red layer, and they're not aligned. And when you look through the red filter of the 3D glasses, you don't see the red layer. And when you look through the blue lens, you don't see the blue layer. And that, when you put them together, that is what creates the depth perspective for 3D glasses. And this only works with black and white film.
You don't even you can't question. You can't even think of that, because you're thinking as a black and white film.
I mean, it's a scientific solution to an effect.
It's a technique that's probably lost as well, because, in all honesty, how many people film in black and white?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And how many people would just utilise CGI for a technique like this?
Yeah.
But what I like is it's so real, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's so real.
Because it's
subtle as well. Like, you don't even realise. Your mind's only registers like a second after it's happened that, wait a minute, this person looks horrific now. This person's gone through this massive change.
And it's real because there's no, there's no visual effects there. There's no computer generated imagery. It's all done in camera. It's all practical, with a scientific explanation for the transformation. Now, what really helps to sell it as well is obviously her performance, but the motion, the fact that she's able to remove a wig, creating this motion, moving her eyes and really creating this motion blur within the camera to then mask that transition further.
And when that goes alongside the horrifying expression and the change in voice that she creates as well, it all works in tandem to create a horrifying image.
And you know, even with the teeth, you mentioned that the teeth had changed. It's because it's simply just red makeup on the teeth as well. And the eyes specifically that you mentioned again, when it had the red filter on, her eyes appeared really black before the transition. Yeah. Once they removed it, the eyes created some sort of like glossy effect on her eyes, and it really highlighted the eyes. You'll see before the transition, she's very flat in terms of like makeup. It's very one tone. There's no reflections on her. Yeah. But when the transition happens, she's very glossy, like an octopus would be. Yeah, it's just an insane effect with an insane solution. I mean, it's crazy. And I love the fact that we're learning about these techniques, because as an indie filmmaker, you guys watching, if you're into making films, you could create a short horror movie in black and white, and utilize this effect if you have a low budget for visual effects. And this is why I love this video series, because it gives me ideas of how to apply different effects to films that I'm looking to potentially make in the future. It is crazy. I just absolutely love and adore this effect. If you want to know what movie used it before, then we're going to take a look at this clip over on our Patreon page. So click the link in the description below to see the full uncut version of this episode. It will probably be 10 to 20 minutes longer than the YouTube edit. So go and check that out in the link in the description below. So Tom, last week and the previous weeks we've said that only 39% of people watching are subscribed.
Yeah, I have heard that.
That figure's actually gone down, disappointingly, to 34% of people watching. That means we've got some newcomers to the channel that haven't subscribed. So
we got to get these numbers up, guys.
We've got newcomers here that haven't subscribed. So if you're a newcomer, if you've just come across this video, or you watched the second video on our channel, welcome, and hit that subscribe button if you want to watch or be notified of all the new content from us. So
especially hit the subscribe if you're watching this on a phone. The first film I wanted to have a look at is 1981's James Bond film called For Your Eyes Only.
Is this one that we've seen on the channel?
No, we haven't. No. So if you're new to the channel, we've reacted to, I think, 5 James Bond films. We're doing them chronologically, but we haven't yet got to this film, which is a Roger Moore film, 1981, directed by John Glenn, who did 6 James Bond films.
Oh. What is going on in the scene, Tom? I really don't. This is so bizarre. She is beautiful.
She's the James Bond girl in the film.
Is she? Is that James Bond?
That's James Bond. This is a great James Bond film as well.
I wonder what technique you're asking me to pick out. Because the obvious one would just be, how do they film this underwater scene? But is there something more specific?
What if I told you, Sean, that they're not underwater?
I was literally going to say this. I was literally, when she was swimming, I was like, oh, they're on wires. I was literally going to say it, but I thought, no, that would be stupid.
Okay, I'm pulling your leg a little bit.
Oh.
They had to come up with a solution with this film because the actress that was playing the James Bond girl, I think, couldn't dive or had a restrictive dive for some reason. Okay. So this utilises a technique that's called dry for wet. Okay, a filming technique called dry for wet. Okay, not the first film to utilise it, but What they do is they intersperse real video footage of underwater people diving. Okay. With close-ups of the actual actors, Roger Moore and then the Bond girl that aren't actually underwater. There. She's not underwater now.
I could understand how he wouldn't be, but when you look at her and her hair is floating,
enormous fans. So
it's
they're blowing their hair.
No, but her hair would just be like really fast.
So what they do is they film this in 120 frames per second to give it the slow motion effect of the hair all blowing out and going.
Go back then, because I want to see this. You can definitely tell because there is a slight colour difference.
Yeah.
There's a slight filtering because with the divers is a lot more washed and blue, whereas it's a lot more clearer when it's on their faces.
Yeah, but I think the fact that it's used so subtly and not very often, it's actually only two or three shots, isn't it?
2 or 3 shots,
that makes it work quite well. And the fact the actors are also moving slowly.
The bubbles, obviously.
The bubbles, yeah. I mean, if you look at the bubbles, they're
literally, they're 2D. They're 2D.
They're not real bubbles.
Yeah, because they're not. They haven't got. They're just like images slapped onto the front of the film.
Well, the bubbles are actually optically added in post production, like you say. But again, because they're so minimal, and you see the real bubbles, and there's actually a lot more, isn't there, when you see the divers there, then you're automatically in your mind, you're not making that connection, and until you're looking for it, you don't even know. Well, I watched this film as a kid, and it's one of my favourite James Bond films, and I always loved this scene, because I thought it's so cool that they're really underwater.
Well, like you said, there's only really 2 shots in this scene, where it's dry for wet, and they're so brief that the bubbles... You know, you don't notice them. You know, they're intercut with actual footage of underwater. So it plays a trick on your mind to believe that, you know, they are underwater. So
they still use this technique. So when I was researching it, I saw that they used it in Pirates of the Caribbean, the most recent one. I think it was... That's the one that was called Dead Men Tell No Tales, but in our country it was called Salazar's Revenge. But they still use that technique. Obviously, they can do a lot more digitally in post-production now with CGI, so they can change a lot more. It's quite expensive shooting underwater because you have to, a lot of the time, create your sets and redesign your sets underwater in giant... film studio water tanks. So obviously you're not shooting underwater.
And not everyone's Tom Cruise who can hold their breath for like 8 minutes. So, you know, a lot of them would need, especially if they're not scuba diving in the actual movie scene. If they have to hold their breath, you know, it will be a lengthy process.
So this film, believe it or not, is from 1916. This is called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, written by Jules Verne. The book was, and this is directed by Stuart Patton. One of the most expensive films ever. This is also considered by a lot of people to be one of the first studio box office bombs because of the amount of money that was put into it and the limited amount that came out.
Oh, wow.
So this is the captain of the ship, Captain Nemo, showing people his magic window of the ocean.
Okay.
They're in a submarine called the Nautilus.
The fact that these are underwater shots from the year 1916.
And remember, people wouldn't have been divers that went to the cinema necessarily.
No.
They wouldn't have been underwater in places like this. So they never would have ever seen this with their own 2 eyes. So it is the very definition of another world.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
A shipwreck.
I'm wondering, like, obviously, how did they film those scenes? Would they have gone under...
But in
suits.
You picture the cameras, though.
I know that there would be
the cameras that they used and would have used, and with the film and everything as well.
How would they have waterproofed all of that?
Exactly.
How would they have done this in 1916? Are they using the same dry for wet technique here?
This is real underwater footage. It almost feels like...
Oh my God, it's haunting. It almost feels
like footage you're not supposed to see.
That looks like a badass moment as well. Look at that. That's awesome.
I love this shot so much. They make slow headway against the swift current. I really want a shark to be in frame at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, wow.
But how, in 1916, did they film these underwater scenes, Sean?
I can only imagine that they are in a submarine and they're filming it from the window. That's my only guess.
Well, you're half right. Because it's not a submarine, but it is an invention designed solely for filming underwater for this film. It's called a photosphere. It's a spherical observation chamber that's lowered or attached to a boat or ship with the cameraman inside and a funnel-like shape or opening so that the camera can record footage.
I mean, that either looks like a nuclear bomb or a sexual object I will not reference.
It's about 5 foot in diameter, but it's also about 1.5 inches thick as well. So to protect the man inside and the camera inside.
You just imagine this film and then look at today's standard with Avatar, The Way of Water. And I've always been fascinated with the idea of going back in time and showing audiences films of today's standard, like going back and showing people like Avatar, The Way of Water. Their minds would they wouldn't be able to comprehend it.
Weird. It was shot in the Bahamas.
The water would be very clear. They would need water to be very clear in order to see anything.
But the company invested so much money into the creation of this film, but not just that, the sets, the costumes, again, considered one of the early box office bombs.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
I was going to put so many clips in this, I was going to look at Avatar Underwater, I was going to look at Aquaman, which is complete, they never even touch the water.
Really?
I mean, they do when they're filming external setting shots of him coming out of the water, but in terms of actually underwater scenes, complete CGI. They wear colour markers on their head so they can CGI the hair flowing in the water, and they use wires and so on. There are so many. Maybe for a future video.
Maybe. But if you like this video and you would like to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell to be notified of when we next upload a How To Hollywood.
And if you want to see the full length reaction of this How To Hollywood episode with additional scenes, then go on over to the Patreon channel now.
Link in the description below. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next reaction or TV episode or How To Hollywood. Go over to Patreon and vote on a poll to decide exactly what we watch next.
You choose.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.